Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week, because we're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves, including some stuff that's going to be getting its quote-unquote official debut next week at the SHOT Show, which you should stick around for all our great coverage upcoming next week as well. But until then, I've got a preview for you right here. All right, folks, if you didn't see our videos earlier this week, there's more than just these new knives to talk about. CRKT dropped their new lineup this past Monday, as did Kershaw and a ZT fixed blade in their drop as well. You can find links to those videos down below, so you can check out those new lineups. But until then, or in addition to them, got some more stuff here to talk about too that is in stock now. The first is a new exclusive version of the Real Steel Luna Lite with Denim Micarta handle scales, coming in at about $35 right now. This is a slip joint knife, but it is a slip joint knife with a deep carry pocket clip too. So it is a little more handy, shall we say, or a little more organized to slip this into your pocket, because it'll stay right in place instead of kind of banging around with all your other stuff. And it's a nice subtle look from the outside. Doesn't really say you're carrying a pocket knife when you have this in your pocket, especially if you're wearing a pair of blue jeans. The little bit of denim that would be visible on the end of this handle is kind of going to blend in too. People might think it's more of an ink pen rather than a knife, but it is a knife, which is cool because we like knives. It is a 2 3/4 inch D2 blade, really cool little drop point shape with a full flat grind. Just a very cool little everyday slicer. Works great, nice and thin, great geometry. You've got these twin fullers along each side that make, or ape, I should say, like an old school long pull on a slip joint. Makes it easy to open with either hand. Very cool. And also fits their secondary part thumb stud, can be part as well. Really cool little thing. And small touches on this that I really like, the jimping right here at the front on the underside where your index finger would rest. Because there's no finger guard or anything like that, you're just holding the knife and cutting some things. You should be looking at what you're cutting, but let's say you're not. That jimping provides a nice tactile clue that you know right where your finger is. You're not going to go forward. It's not going to prevent you from sliding forward too much, but you will know that it's there. You've also got a nice partial stop along the travel, and as you can see, it sounds very nice. The snap is very cool. This version right here with the D2 and the Denim Micarta, only available from the Knife Center. Like I said, $35 or so right now. Next up, we have some new Demko AD 20.5s, now in a more premium stainless steel option, which hasn't happened yet. S35 VN blade steel on these bad boys. A couple different versions. You've got both blade shapes, the clip point and the tongue-in-cheekly named shark's foot, aka the more or less sheep's foot style blade, each with that cool steel. The cool steel, get it? Andrew Demko used to design for cold steel.
Good for you.
This is what passes for humor around here today. 3.2 inches on the blade length for the clip point shape, and hitting right under that 3-inch mark for the shark's foot. A couple of different G10 colors right now. We've also got a natural and a tan G10, as well as carbon fiber option, as you can see here. It's a little bit different than our exclusive carbon fiber and 3V versions that we still do have some in stock of, I believe. It looks to be a a carbon fiber layer on top, and the layers underneath, I'm actually not sure what they are. It doesn't look like carbon fiber, it doesn't look like G10 either, so it looks far too neat almost. I am curious if anyone knows out there. You can't see the twill pattern from the inside either, which you can on the other side. Interesting. There's also a little bit more texture, almost like a G10-like texture to the top of this carbon fiber due to the clear layer on top. But apart from that, it is of course the same. You've got your shark lock there on the back, which is very easy to use, very strong, and finger safe and ambidextrous. It hits so many things that I personally like in a locking mechanism, which is cool by me. I dig that. In addition to that, you've got the pocket clip here, which is on the right, but there is a left side pocket clip included in the packaging, of course, because the way they have this design, it's not a completely ambidextrous shape, but it works very, very well. But take your pick of the blade. If you've been waiting for a stainless that wasn't the AUS 10, now you've got a really good option here. And prices, I believe I'm dealing with some preliminary numbers right now on the time we're filming this, but ranges between $250 and $265, depending on which version you get. We have also got some new Flytanium scales for the AD 20.5, and these are going to be compatible with the Grivery handled versions of this knife. Not either of these two new versions here that have the larger pivot, or the larger pivot screw on the outside. Those aren't going to work with these Flytanium scales, but the other versions will. G10 and a few different colors. I happened to have picked the blue one right here, just because I did. About $64 for these. And the other thing they do, in addition to offering other colors, is these aren't flat-sided like all of the factory versions are currently. So you'll hold it there so you can get a general idea of what it'll look like. There's a little bit of contouring, and then the treatment here at the front, if you've seen their crossfade scales for the Benchmade bug out, it's kind of a similar thing. You get a thumb scallop and this kind of little scoopy shape right here, which on those other scales make room for the axis lock, but here they just give a different kind of grip area. So that's pretty nice looking, actually. And I always like to see things that are flat handled get some shape. I happen to personally be a fan of that. So it's a pretty cool upgrade, I think, right there. The same can be said for this next set of scales, which are made for the Para 3. And that is the Lotus scales from Flytanium are now available. They had these out on the Paramilitary 2 last year. Now you can get them on the Para 3, which is very, very exciting. Little bit of contour, some scoop outs as well to give it a little more of a quote-unquote shape rather than the flat handles of the original. This is a stonewashed titanium version right here. It comes in about $98. There is a black titanium that is a couple bucks more. Copper, carbon fiber, each of those kind of up near the top end of that price range. We've also got G10s and Micartas. Price on the Micarta is about $49, G10 $45. So anywhere from $45 to about $110, you can get this shape depending on which material you go for. So that is also pretty cool. I actually have a set of the Lotus scales on one of my Paramilitary 2s. Strongly considering picking up a set of these titanium ones, I think, for me personally. I really dig that.
You all right there, buddy?
I'm okay. It's all good. Everything's fine. Also, I don't have an example knife here for this one, but the Pilar 3 from CRKT, front scales now available in a couple of different Micartas and I think G10s. Also titanium, should mention that. Titanium's about $48. It's about half the amount of material as these two-sided scales, because you're on the back of that knife is a stainless steel frame lock, so you're only getting one side. So about $48 for titanium, $19 for this Micarta right here. We've also got some backspacers, different material backspacers you can add, including copper and titanium. Yeah, some other cool little materials there you can use to really elevate your little knife. All right, next we have got some WE. These are things we expect to see even more fully broken down next week at the SHOT Show when we go and visit WE and CIVIVI, sister companies, of course. But we get to take a look at some of them right now because they just officially released them this week. And my favorite WE of this drop is definitely this Mini Nitro Flipper, a Peter Carey design from WE. And there are more expensive versions of this that have some carbon fiber and some, what's the word? The fancy ones. Fat Carbon.
That one.
Couldn't remember the name for some reason. But I am really liking this version right here, especially. $267 compared to, I think the Fat Carbon one's about, the Fat Carbon one comes with a Damasteel blade. That's like $629. But this one right here, $267 and some change. You've got black 20 CV steel, just over 3 inches, black titanium with integral bolsters, and brown linen micarta, gold thumb stud, and gold screws and pivot. How good does that look? I'll tell you, it looks very, very good, especially here in person. It's got a modern yet classic vibe to it. It's just so classy looking. And I'm not even a fan of black blades, like almost never. But I really, really dig this. The blade shape is great. The whole profile actually is very elegant, but the blade shape is going to be very, very useful. You've got a high flat grind with a swedge, very efficient daily slicer. The linen micarta has a really nice matte texture. It's not fuzzy or anything like that, but it's not slick either. It's just so good. It is a frame lock, or a bolster lock, as some people like to say, but it has because of the inlay on each side of that brown linen, it's almost impossible for you to kind of squeeze the lock bar with your fingers. So there's almost no way to inadvertently interfere with the action on this knife at any point. Superb. Milled titanium pocket clip, a couple more gold screws there at the back. You've got the flipper tab and thumb studs to actuate the blade with ball bearings in the pivot. I mean, come on. And it's a very highly sought after custom design too, so to be able to get it at a more wallet-friendly price, not a cheap price, but still, that is a really, really cool thing. Next, we have the Thug XL from Matthew Christensen from We Knife Company. There it is, $342 for this version right here with the shredded carbon fiber handles. It looks a little more marbly, but in any case, it's one of those really nice things. Again, nice texture here too. Kind of like a fine sanded but not polished finish. Very cool. You can get it in a plain titanium front side too. That's about $299. This version about $343. There's a flamed titanium version for about that price too. 20 CV blade, 3.35 inches. Compound Tonto blade. Very cool. Hollow at the back, front at the leading edge, and then a swedge to boot as a bonus. Really cool. This is a knife too that if you're really keen on kind of blades and handles looking almost equal, this is definitely a great option for you. A couple things achieve that. One, the shape of the back of the handle neatly tapers and follows the line of the blade, and as you can see, tip comes way back towards the end there. The pivot is very close to the leading edge, and this cutout at the front visually kind of pulls your eye back and makes the blade seem longer than it actually is. So visually get a really, really cool balance. And you get a really solid tool as well because it's a WE product. Titanium on the back with a frame lock bar insert. And interestingly, I don't think it has an over travel stop on the inside. Not that I can see anyway, because the pivot ring here at the back actually functions as that. So you can't push that lock bar further out inadvertently. Pretty cool. You've got a milled pocket clip there as well, hidden lanyard point at the front, and thumb studs only here with ball bearings and pivot. Great, great action as you might expect.
I like how you said front at the leading edge. You were talking about the grinds.
Yes. No, I know, but it took me a moment to process, that's all.
Front at the leading edge, where else would it be?
At the front, it was at the front, comma, at the leading edge. It's like reinforcing the point.
You never said flat.
Forcing the point like a Tonto does
now I
sometimes.
gotta put a text up. And this whole exchange is just to remind me to do that.
Probably leave it in too, it's fine. Anyway, next up, one more WE. It is a button lock. It is the Mini Malice. There's a new version of it with flamed titanium here to $262.50 at this point in time. Blade, just under 3 inches, 20 CV. You've got that trick here with the handle that kind of visually pulls the blade back just a little bit. Great little shape for EDC. You've got a finger choil. For me, since my fingers are a little wider, it's kind of a finger tip choil. I wouldn't want to choke all the way up in there because the back end of that heel at the back of the blade kind of kisses things a little bit. Milled pocket clip has that same flamed finish on it as well. And then the button lock action, of course, too. You can do that wrist flick, open or closed, I should mention. And then, of course, you've got the flipper, and I haven't tried it yet. I probably tried this on the last one, but can you reverse flick it? Yep, yes you can. Really nice. These things actually fill the hand pretty nicely, even though it's a smaller handle overall. Just a solid 3-inch knife that kind of cuts a little bit bigger than its size. Next, and even biggest news from this release is the button lock Elementum that everyone probably wanted to begin with, which is this, the CIVIVI button lock Elementum 2, Roman numeral 2. This, I think, is what people were asking for when they said they wanted a button lock Elementum. And this is also why their naming structure for the Elementum at this point is getting expansive, is getting a little confused. And because the original button lock Elementum was larger and had no flipper tab. But now that they've released this, what do they call this? Hence the Roman numeral 2. I really like what they've done with it. You've got the same dimensions from the side as the original Elementum flipper. The price on these are $65, and for that, you're getting an American-made steel, Nitro V, as opposed to the D2. So in addition to having way more toughness than D2, it's also stainless. Edge retention, could be a toss-up. I'm a big fan of Nitro V, and the other similar steels like it, the Sandvik 13C26 and 14C28. I'm a big fan of that kind of family. AEBL, Nitro V, all kind of sit in a similar space. I like them all. You can get a nice fine grain out of that type of steel. You've got a good amount of toughness for a traditionally made stainless too, which is very cool. But your 3-inch blade is something you could take just about anywhere. You've got a high hollow grind on it, and a drop point shape works for just about anything. Deep carry pocket clip, not reversible still. I know some folks were hoping that they would put the holes on the other side so you could flip the clip around. I myself was hoping for that for the lefties out there, because with the button lock, it works left-handed too. Works even better if you are left-handed and trying to do it. But you don't have to push the button down to actuate the flipper, which was a complaint that some had about the original button lock Elementum, the larger knife. This is exactly, I think, what folks would have expected if they heard a button lock Elementum was coming out. So now it's here. The one difference, you may notice earlier I said the side profile had identical dimensions to the original. The thickness, the blade is the same, but the G10 scales are a little bit thicker, and that's to make room for the button lock mechanism here. And as such, you get a little bit of a girthier knife. It's subtle, but it's also immediately recognizable. I mean, I picked this up out of the box, and that was my first thought. And I hadn't even picked up an original Elementum in quite a while, but it's like, this is a little different. And sure enough, it is. We had one here. We'll try to get Thomas to do a side-by-side here from the top as a close-up so we can see the difference. It's not enough that it's going to turn it into a kind of pocket tank, but it is a little bit more. It just gives it a little bit more sense of power too at the same time. Right, wrong, or indifferent, but there you go. Very, very cool. That is definitely going to be a hit. Oh, I should mention the other types we have. We've got the natural G10 with the satin blade. There's also a black stonewash blade with a black and with an OD green G10 option available right now. Next up, another Nitro V CIVIVI. This is a detent joint, non-locking knife. This is the Foldis from Ostap Hell. The blade is 2.67 inches with that Nitro V. This is a brushed copper. For this particular handle, coming in about $79, but around the $60 mark, there's a G10 and a linen micarta option available also. Those options have a black blade. This one right here has the fine blasted satin going on. Great little drop point shape, almost a full flat grind, not too thick. great little pen knife pocket knife. You can do that flicky thing because it is a detent joint, and you can see with the top flipper here, flips very, very handily indeed. And will it thumb flick? Yes, a little less reliably for me, but I'm always a little awkward with that sort of thing. There, not too bad. Like the Luna we looked at earlier, you've got a little bit of jimping here at the front leading edge of the handle. The front leading edge, where your index finger would go. And as such, since this is a non-locking knife, I do always appreciate that kind of the safety concern there. Again, not just for traction, but also if the blade starts to close, there is something at least to keep the knife from folding further. Not as good as if it were a full flipper tab here. It is still possible to kind of go past and kiss your finger with the edge if you're not careful. So be careful, it's a non-locking knife. Actually, I should mention, that's one thing about the Luna Lite, we're switching gears here, that the way its pivot orientation is in relation to that jimping, it is a little bit more effective at that task than on this particular CIVIVI. But back to this particular CIVIVI. We've also got a deep carry clip on this knife, wire folded over. It is reversible. That's one area where the that Luna Lite kind of lets the left-handers down a little bit, but it is a slip joint. It's not as likely to fly open in your pocket as some other things. This thing, some may call it a flip joint. I've heard that thrown around, but it is the double detent bars. It's a little easier to lock and or actuate and to unlock. Again, just know what you're getting into. It is a really nice little shape. The handle is certainly actually hand filling for sure. There's a lot you could do with this if you were being safe about it. Next up, the Synergy 3 from CIVIVI. The Jim Young design based on the original Synergy, which was a speed tech, which was the first knife designed in CAD way back in the day. Say way back in the day, this one's like 25 years ago.
That was a long time for me.
Aluminum, button lock, cool stuff. We came out with the frame locking version, maintaining the integral nature of the original, but they wanted a more affordable CIVIVI version as well. Not integral, unfortunately, but we've seen those out for a little bit. Now the new drop point blade shape has made its way to the Synergy 3. You've got a 3¼ inch blade with the drop point. Prices on them start at about $93.50 for the Nitro V versions. We've also got this Damascus bladed version, which is based on a 9CR steel mix. So performance roughly on par with 440C. This version is about $132. It also comes, in addition to the more expensive blade material, it comes with a carbon fiber G10 combination handle right here, as opposed to just the plain G10s of the others. But no matter which material you do get really nice contouring. Again, always like seeing something that's not just flat. You get a cool thing right here for sure. Does a good job despite looking maybe a little, we'll just say the word interesting. It nestles into the hand quite nicely indeed. We've got an inset liner lock, keeping things a little bit classier there than some of the, just a full liner, which nothing wrong with it at all, but it's just a nice, those like nice touches. Appreciate that sort of thing. Ball bearings in the pivot with the flipper tab as your actuation method. Works great. The drop point, in my mind, is certainly the most everyday useful blade shape that's available on this particular knife. You've got a deep carry clip, single-sided in this case. It's just a cool knife. CIVIVI's definitely doing a very good job. Next up, the WingManEDC Tom Mayo design MTNT Mach 3. Very cool design. We've had something similar to these with the kickstop flipper before, but these new versions feature a front flipper. Really, it looks like a top flipper, but the way it's designed, I'm finding it pretty difficult to use my index finger on it. It's a bit awkward, but I'm actually managing the thumb front flick a lot more easily than I can with some designs. Several versions of this, all with the high-end inlays. This is a green layered carbon fiber, but there are several different new inlaid versions you can check out. Price on them at $380. Blade is just under 3 inches. You've got M390, and you've got a horizontal grain. On the website, we say hand rubbed, but holding it in the light, I see just a little hint of machine chatter, so it might not actually be hand rubbed, but you still get that cool look. It's only in very certain lights I pick up on that, but looks fantastic. I'm always a fan of seeing a horizontal grain like that. Also, it makes our job easier here when we're preparing for video shoots. Very easy to wipe something off when it looks like that, because you're not gonna be fighting the natural grain of the blade itself. So that's fun too. Milled pocket clip, it is attached from the inside, so no visible screw on the outside, which is pretty cool. Hidden lanyard point at the back, and it is a Tom Mayo design, so you gotta have some holes drilled into it, kind of a signature look, and a look that looks good as it looks here. See, look. Frame lock underneath the inlays on each side. In addition to that top front flipper, whatever you want to call it, you've got the thumb cutout, which works with the reverse flick just as easily as it does with the thumb too. Really cool little design. You can either choke back on it and put your index finger in the main groove right there, in which case it's kind of a 3-finger grip for me. But as you can see, there's plenty of more handle, or plenty more space ahead of that, so you actually can, at least for my slightly larger than average hands, just barely get all 4 of my fingers on there and gorilla grip it and go to town if you need to. Last cool little thing, the bomb-shaped pivot tool, which is designed, as you can see, we have a custom pivot here. So this will help you turn that if you need to, and will also work with this fastener at the back, which actually, now that I'm looking at it, I know I said earlier that the pocket clip was secured from the inside. I think I'm wrong. I think it's actually secured from the opposite side, which would mean, you know, I can't tell if this is pocketed in there or not either. So it may be reversible. Maybe not. Man, you know it's a really good, really super well-made construction when you can't even tell if there's a pocket in there or not. It's just so tight-fitting if it is. Man, good job. Whoever they're getting to make this over there right now, phenomenal. Next up, we've got some Microtech. As always, we seem to be getting a lot of really cool batches of Microtech in just about every week right now. This is one that I haven't seen something quite like it before. It is a Signature Series Mini Troodon with the Tonto blade, the Hellhound Tonto blade on it. Come on, man. This is one of those that just makes me frickin' smile. I mean, that is really cool. Certainly a pretty useful shape. I can could see myself really using the tip of that a lot, opening up boxes and packages. And in fact, the holes in the blade here make it a really nice place, I think, to rest my index finger if I were using that leading edge kind of more precisely. That's pretty cool. You've got the signature pocket clip here, which is reversible, it should be said, making the knife completely ambidextrous. And the action on this one, I mean, it's the same thing you would expect, but the pressure needed on the switch here is a little bit less. So if you're one who sometimes thinks that Microtech's sliders, their switches are a little aggressive, maybe a little pinchy on your thumb, this one's a little bit less so, but it's just as awesome. These things are really cool. 1.99-inch blade, so it is a quote-unquote California compliant model. You still have a decent handhold on it. 3 fingers, yeah, but there's enough width there and enough thickness as well that it feels fairly secure, I have to say. Smiles all around with that knife. Next up, a couple of new Toor fixed blades, second week in a row for that. This is the Field 3.0, 250 bucks, US made out of CPM 154 steel, 3.6-inch blade, about 3 5/8 of an inch, ebony handles and copper liners, as you can see, nestled up next to that full tang. And I'll tell you, those copper liners, you definitely feel the weight of it here. You're combining that with a 3/16-inch thick blade, you've got a 6.5-ounce knife right here. But if that's what you're after, if you want something that's not huge, but you still want something that is just a, like beefy, stout, survival style knife, this is definitely the type of thing you would be looking for. And CPM 154, it's gonna give you good all-around performance for that sort of thing too. It's stainless, of course, but you're gonna get a pretty good amount of toughness and edge retention out of that at the same time. So there you go. The ebony wood handles are kind of fluted or ground in such a way that you're going to get a lot of traction out of them. It's not super pinchy, but if I were doing long carving sessions with this, I would definitely want to be wearing gloves personally. As far as using it for other bushcrafty stuff like striking a fire steel, the spine of it is maybe just crisp enough to strike that, but it's so close that if it's not, a little bit of time on a stone is going to do good things there. You can do that on the back here at the protruding tang at the back too. The sheath as well is really nice looking. I really like the kind of streaked finish they've given it. The sides of it are finished super nicely. Herman oak saddle leather, nice and stiff. The one thing it is missing is a belt attachment, but I did check, and your standard Tech Lock hole pattern will work with that at about that position right there. Get a better angle of that so Thomas can see it. That's probably where you'd want to put it right there, I would think. But of course you can do horizontal too if that's your thing. Super well built. Would have been nice to have a belt attachment piece included, but yeah, check the knife out right there. Next up, the case Woodchuck is finally in stock. I actually showed one of these quite a while ago on a Father's Day episode of our FAQ series. They weren't in yet, but I used a picture because it made the perfect completion to the most serious question that week. And now they're actually in. The Woodchuck, this is one of the patterns available on the wood front scale. Back of the scale has Woodchuck, buy one, plant one engraved on it. Because as part of this project, I have the actual text over here, Case is partnering with planters across not all, 6 different continents to plant a whole mess of trees. For every one of these, essentially, that they've made and sold, a tree is getting planted. That's cool, especially when you consider it's not that expensive of a layout for an American-made knife. I mean, less than $50 right now. Blade length on it is about 2 1/4, sharpened length just under 2 inches, full height hollow grind. They're true sharp stainless, nice little shape. The handle backing it up offers a fair amount of grip. It's not a girthy hand-filling grip, but you can see it's a little bit wider, and with just using my 3 fingers, nestles in pretty well. The tail of it actually kind of wants to stick between my last 2, which allows that pinky to kind of push in on the back. So it feels pretty secure. Doesn't feel great in a gorilla grip. In fact, it actually doesn't feel very good at all in a gorilla grip for my hands anyway, but still can get a solid hold on that and put it to some decently sized work for sure. For such a small knife, that is no small achievement. There you go, a few different versions you can check out right now. And last but not least, we have some Fallkniven kitchen knives. Some fancy Fallkniven kitchen knives. These are the fanciest of theirs that I've seen for this arena. We've got an 8-inch chef's knife. This is the CMT Alpha. Comes in about $389 or about $389.95 at this point in time, so we'll just say $390. And for about $277, we have the CMT Zulu, a 3-inch paring knife, even though it says chef knife on the on our website description. Man, these are cool. They maintain the convex grind right down to the edge, no secondary bevel that we're used to seeing on most of their fixed blades, now just in a kitchen format. And the balance on the chef knife is quite good. Maybe a little bit handle heavy, but only just, I would say. Got really decent balance there overall. Crowned spine, which is nice. Triple laminated steel, so a Sanmei style construction, I believe. Yes, this is their laminated COS steel. So that core, it's that laminated cobalt material they use. Step up from the VG10 that they use on some of their things. More edge retention, and I believe more toughness as well. Really cool stuff, and you get the kind of elegance of that subtle line right behind the edge too. The handles, as you can see, they're bolstered, but the bolster doesn't extend down towards the edge, so as you sharpen this knife, you don't have to worry about bolster getting in the way and preventing cutting board contact. Maroon linen micarta handles, high polished, a really nice shape. The shield in each side of it, nice classy touch too. I like that. As for the rocking action on the cutting board. Feels pretty good. It's not the softest landing, but it's not a clunk either. That's going to be a very comfortable long-term user, I think, for sure. And then as for the Zulu, put this down here, one step at a time. I really, really dig this, actually. It's almost, we could almost call this just a modified Wharncliffe blade with the amount of straight edge on that smaller blade right there. Still have the crown spine. You've got that nice polished linen micarta. These are just super classy, you guys. Oh man. Made in Japan, as I expected. A lot of folks sometimes will say, oh, why'd you say a Fallkniven's made in Japan? It's a Swedish company. It is a Swedish company, but most of their fixed blades, most of their knives, period, are made in Japan, actually. That's just so cool. Thomas, what do you think my favorite thing this week is?
Well, there's only one fixed blade.
Yes, that's true.
So yeah, kind of narrows it down.
No. I may seriously buy one of these. Got a few good paring knives, but could always use some more, right?
You? Probably.
Probably. I actually would use it too, so I could use some more. I could always use more. Well, that's all we've got for today. Next week, we won't have a regular New Knives of the Week episode because it is SHOT Show week. There's going to be, debuts of companies' new lineups all week long. Lots of stuff to get through. Very exciting. We're going to be in Las Vegas just having a good time while we're not shooting and covering the new stuff. We'll be having a good time when we're doing that too, probably.
Probably.
Most of the time. If Thomas doesn't get too grumbly.
No guarantees.
Yeah.
It's a one play.
Yeah. So check out all of that stuff. Next week, we've got a FAQ coming up this Saturday, as always. Let me know what you thought of these knives, and if you want to get your hands on any of them, links in the description will take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget, our Knife Rewards program is in place, so if you're buying these knives today, you're going to earn some free money to spend on a future one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.